Hello guys, in today's video I'm just quickly going to talk about some, I would say, common mistakes I find when people choose a book to read. Now, if you don't know me, I'm called Mikkel. I've built a company with my business partner Christian where we help coaches completely automate their client acquisition through our reliable systems. Because we believe coaches should be spending their time coaching instead of marketing. We live by the motto of coaches should be coaching and marketers should be marketing. Now, what I really want to talk about is I see a lot of the time when newer people begin to do for their own agency, business, coaching in general, they find a lot of different books and begin to read, like really study in general what the market is all about. Yeah, that's great. It's fantastic to study the market before you actually begin, but you also have to actually study the correct things. If you study, let's say, how to grow crops, and you're a coach helping with sales, for example, you can't you can use a little of it, but you can't really put that into perspective the same way as if, for example, you studied a sales book or something. It's way better to choose the correct thing first of all. So you have to also find out what you actually want to study. It's one of the traps that caught Christian and I in the beginning. We became to study all kinds of books. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Atomic Habits, all those kinds. Yeah, they are good to study, but we want to go in the more direct or more correct direction. If what we struggled or what we needed at that time was literally just do the work, but we chose to do pain avoidance instead and said, you know what, reading a book isn't that painful actually. So we used our time reading books instead. Of course, it's clever to also read books, but you have to also know when to start. Yeah, it's always good to study to increase your repertoire of knowledge, but you also have to actually do the work. If you're a sales coach and you read a lot of books about sales and selling in general, but you forget to actually get the client or forget to actually coach the client, then what does it matter? Like literally, what does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. So you also have to choose your battles. You, I would say a good way to do it is put off an hour, have an hour or so every day to read, and then also choose the correct ones. A lot of the time, what you see is people, they go, "Oh, this book looks cool." Someone on Instagram, someone on TikTok, someone on Facebook recommended it, that it was a great book. Yeah, sure, it may be a great book, but why? Like, really, why? Why study someone who's reached 20K a month? L- Only, like literally, only 20K a month. It's not a lot when you really think about it. And let's say if you didn't write that book, maybe he would be at 30K, 40K. You also have to really look at it. See, was it also just pain avoidance from their side? If it was just pain avoidance, then you'll also know really quickly that maybe it isn't that great to actually follow through with what he says. I'm not saying that people don't have clever ideas in those kinds of videos. What I'm really just books, sorry. What I'm really just trying to say is you have to choose. Why choose the small steps, like the people who've reached 10, 20, 40, 50K a month, when you can do something I personally would say would be way clever. You can study the old. You can study those who've changed the world. Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, Thomas Edison, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Otto von Bismarck. All those great people, they've changed the world. If you read a book about them and learn how they think, how they became so big and really could change the world, and if you learn their way of thinking, you like copy their paradigm, their way of thinking. Of course, only take the relevant. For example, if you study Hitler, I don't know, but if you study him, don't take the whole thing. I would personally say, just take the key points, the good points. I'm not saying Hitler was a great guy. I'm just saying he knew how to manipulate people's weakness. He was there at the correct time, correct place. Literally everything was correct. He already had a back. He already had a following. So he was like, yeah, let's actually do this. And look at him. Let's say they didn't. It's a bit of a controversial topic I'm going to. Let's just look at it like this. Let's say Hitler wasn't that bad of a guy. He is, but I'm not saying anything. But he knew how to manipulate people to do his bidding. And that's such a powerful thing. I wouldn't recommend doing it and the way he did. He was at fault for a lot of people's death. I'm saying you can learn how he manipulated people and then do it for the better of people. So they can actually fix the problem. If you know with 100% certainty that you can help a client, for example, if you're a sales coach, jump from 5% 5% conversion rate to 25%, and it would only cost like one or two clients, let's say 10K dollars, it would be a steal, because the sales is something that'll be on his whole life. So you have to manipulate him in a way where he actually buys, and then you help him in the long run. Now, as I said, I'm not saying you have to, you should do it exactly like Hitler did. What I'm saying is, he knew how to manipulate people. So if you can learn how to manipulate people as well, so that they'll go into the right direction, so that they can have a brighter future, then do that. You can also read Jeff Bezos' book. He started off in his garage with Amazon. It was only for books in the beginning, but then it just expanded. See where he is now. You have to study the greats. If you study the greats, you will become even closer. If you study those who only earn 10 to 20K a month, you set limiting beliefs in yourself that this is the height of what I can achieve. Then once you hit those 10 to 20K a month, you'll be stuck down there. You don't know what to do. But if you study the greats, really study the greats, learn how they thought about things, why they did the things they did, then you will also know and learn how they became so big, instead of studying some of the newer books. A lot of the newer books that come out, they don't have as big of an impact on the world as the greats had. If you go back and look at the impact, for example, Nikola Tesla had on the world, and then you go and take a look at the impact. Let's think of some strange name. Just the local business down the street, which for some reason has a book, and it's the bestseller. Which one has had the biggest impact? Who do you think learned from learning how they did the things, like copying their paradigm? Who do you think will get you the furthest? You may say, but this over here, it works now. It may work now. But the greats, they still work as well. You just have to do it in a newer and more modern way. Yeah, this is like monkey see, monkey do over here in the 10 to 20k street. And then the small pack over here, you will actually learn how to think. You will learn how to do it yourself instead of just scanning with your eyes and then copy what others have done. There's a reason why they're doing 10 to 20k. And there's a reason why these over here has had such a big impact on humanity. So why study the small boys when you can study the big boys? Why the 10 to 20k when you can study the multi-billionaires and how they achieved it? Why? Like literally, why? This over here may be easier because it's literally just reading and you'll get pretty much all you need to get to the 10 to 20k. Over here, yeah, you may have to think a lot more, keep notes and trial and error, but you will get so much further if you actually also try. This over here, there's a reason why it's like the paywall a lot of people hit is 10 to 20k. It's because they've done exactly this over here. They've read a couple of books and thought, this looks cool, let's do that. And then they do that. They still haven't learned to think. So the only thing they've learned is monkey see, monkey do. They haven't learned to think for themselves. They haven't learned to actually do things, think it out, and implement it themselves. They are stuck living in the 10 to 20k because they haven't learned to think. It was never in their mind that they actually had to think, in their subconsciousness. They thought, okay, I'll just take this over here and put it in. There we go. Yeah, you may take this over here and put it in, but if it's some strange piece of wood and you're trying to make a brick wall, it won't work. If you put in a rotten piece of wood into your brick wall, it will collapse. It won't work as well as if you just use a brick wall. If you learn how to think, it really is the key to everything, is to learn to think. And by studying the greats of all time, you will learn how to think. You will learn how they acted and why they acted it in that way. And then you can implement it yourself. Now you can't take all, you can't take all their knowledge from, let's say, one person, Elon Musk. You can't take his whole paradigm, put it into yourself and expect it to work. You have to take some of it and then implement it into your business. Then go back and forth, keep on implementing new things. Because, yeah, some of the knowledge they had is wrong. It's proven wrong. But a lot of it was in the correct way. The thought, the thinking behind everything over here, there was so much more thinking in it than over here. This was just copy paste, literally copy paste. I think I've like seen 6 or 7 books, pretty much the same title, and I honestly can't remember the different authors. But it's pretty much all about the same thing. But over here you learn how to think. Then you learn why they are stuck over here and why you shouldn't do it. That's also why I can talk about it now. Because I've seen this shit. I've been in here. But I've learned why we study the grades. Why we don't study the guy down the street. And of course it's also great to study the guy down the street because it's the local area. But that's why we don't study random guys. We study the grades. They had an impact on the world. If you go down, let's say you go out of the front door, two houses down the street, go in and ask them, okay, what kind of business do you run? How big of an impact will you have in the world? How big of an impact have you already had? Most of the time, first of all, they won't run a business or anything, and they haven't had any kind of impact on the world, pretty much. They are feeble, tiny human beings. But these over here, there's a reason why we still remember their name. If you go down to the guy 2 houses down the street, and you ask for their names and then search on Google, you can't find their great ancestors. But if you go for some of the bigger people, some of them are fucking, sorry about the language, some of them are over 200, 300 years old. 500 years old. Socrates, he's like ancient. He's seriously old. And there's a reason why he's still remembered to this day. It was because of the impact. So I really want you to, instead of reading all these modern books, look at the olds. There are some great books out there. For example, some of Robert Greene's books, Robert Cialdini. But the big thing about those is because they look back in history. They look back at what the greats have done. And that's the thing. They've looked at what the greats did, put it into the book, and then put it out in the world, and then showed their psychology behind some of the things. So really study the olds. And that was pretty much it for this video. If you are a coach struggling with client acquisition or appointment booking in general, then click on the first link down in the description. Full transparency, it's a sales funnel with my business partner Christian, where he just quickly goes through what we can help you guys with. For us, it doesn't really matter if you click on the link or not. We just want to put out as much info, as much knowledge to help as many coaches as possible. If you liked this video, of course, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or want to hear some of the grades we have chosen to study, then comment them down in the comment section and I will reply to it. Lastly, if you want to see more of this kind of content, of course, go ahead and subscribe. Peace out.